I'm here with Mickey, and this is recorded after the HLE game, so we don't know the next opponent yet, but I think it's good to get some perspective right after this game specifically. What went wrong?
Well, I guess early game didn't go quite as planned. I think we were a little bit, looks like we were a bit sleepy in the early game. We were not really talking much, so we just got caught a lot of times. And then we weren't really paying attention to where they are. But then we got some good fights, some good momentum, we got some Barons. And I think we could have closed it when Caps was fighting mid 2v1 against Ashe Jax. And if I hacked over that wall, I think I just get a double stun because Ashe had no flash. And I think we just win the game there. But I messed it up. And then the game took a bit longer, and then we couldn't fight anymore because Smolder was too strong.
Yeah.
We tried to do some side lane plays. But yeah, it didn't really work out. But I'm confident that next time we can take it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the game, you said you had a bad early game, but the resiliency and the way in which you fought yourself back in the game, and you say it yourself, there was a couple of like mechanic misplays that in the end did us in. You know, how much courage does that give you that, hey, the game plan and the prep and our abilities is actually where it should be despite the loss? Yeah,
I mean, for sure. It could be a lot worse, right? We could just gotten stumped, and then it was like, oh well, I guess we're just too bad. But it didn't feel like we were too bad. We were still worse. But at least from myself, at least, if I feel like if I don't int as much as I did this game, we're probably just gonna win. So that's nice for me. Okay, I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed for you for the next game. Thank you, Mickey. Thank you.
It's great to have some context around this game here, and this was the game.
It was close. I mean, Smolder did 58,000 damage, had 600 stacks, and had 10 kills. But the fact that this game was actually this close is a testament to how creative G2 actually was in finding plays.
Yeah, and I mean, that's been the most fun thing about G2 so far in this tournament. Like, both games they've had, double Yone games. The first one is a Yone Yasuo game, so that's already a fun composition to run with. And just being able to find plays and then just abuse Caps on side has been the thing that I've been enjoying the most, especially when they went up against Pain. Pain were just in a tough position because they wanted to play towards Baron or at least try and contest it, but they ended up being like, well, if we just send one person, Yone is going to be able to deal with them, so we need to send two. Then that means we're just completely conceding Baron. So it's like they were just in a tough position in that entire game.
And I'm just wondering, what could G2 do better today? Because they were able to put Caps on sideline and try and buy time and save the situation, but the early game didn't go quite the way they expected to. So I appreciate the fact that they trust their approach, they trust what they've been working on so far, but game-wise, and especially setting up the pace in the early stages of the game, I feel like G2 could do more.
Yeah, because at least this one was that was the PNG game where it felt like nothing could be done. But in the HLE game, it felt like it was a necessity because they were going to lose fights.
I think it's going to be tricky. I do wonder if they have anything cooked for non-meta picks that maybe BrokenBlade could play. Just because this is an updated bracket of what we have. Weibo has had an extremely difficult road here. They actually were very close to Gen G in that first game, and then they found their way into this game based off their second loss. But the importance of this is you can see the 2-1 pool and the 1-2 pool already being populated.
Yeah.
You really want to be in that 2-1 pool because you'll have a second chance, especially now that BLG is already in that 1-2 pool. But specifically to your point, Laura, as we get to the MasterCard fan prediction, I do think the laning phase is going to be extremely hard in this game because Weibo, even against Gen G, we had an amazing stat. They were the first team all year to be ahead of Gen G top, mid, and bot at CS at 20. And they still lost the game to Gen G. That was a credit to Gen G. But that just shows how well Weibo Gaming's laners can play. So I think G2 will have an advantage if they get out of the early game with an even map state.
Well, let's get to game then. Casters, over to you for the last game of the day, Weibo versus G2.
I like the confidence in G2, Jet. I wish I wasn't a pessimist. I could revel there with you, but obviously going to be a thrilling game no matter what, especially when you think about the history of these two teams. And also when you think about the history of the mid laners, right? Caps and Xiaohu have been playing against each other since 2017 Worlds. Back when it was RNG versus Fnatic. Now a new era, a very different story.
7 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's like when we started casting.
Yeah. The thing is, right, I think you could make the argument that on paper, G2 could be considered favorites in this matchup. However, Weibo are the most unpredictable team on the planet.
Yes, they are.
Domestically, they were a team that should not have made it to the LPL finals.
And yet
they did.
And last year, internationally, they were not a team that should have made it to the World Finals. And yet, They did.
Yeah, and they had a very good start in their game versus Gen G, and then they ended up getting outplayed. And then they had a bad start versus TL, where they were able to come back. And it's like, I can't figure this team out. And you know, I was speaking to Munch the other day, and I was like, am I mean for calling Weibo weird? And he's like, no, they're really weird. And I was like, okay, cool. Glad we're on the same page. They are a difficult team to predict, so I don't know what Weibo we're going to get today. What I do know is that Tarzan is an incredible jungler, and if you give him the tools to carry, he will carry. So let's see what's on the ban table. Weibo targeting out Yike, similar to what HLE did.
Yeah.
They banned away the Brand, they banned away the Zyra. That meant that if G2 wanted to go for the Yone, he would be forced onto the Lilia. And I think that G2 should branch out. Regardless, the Yone is going to be banned away. So the Aurora is available right now. You imagine that's going to be the final pick, ban, I should say, on the side of Weibo. And then it becomes a question of what does the first pick priority become for G2?
Damn good question. A lot of high prio picks still available. Aurora, the one you highlighted first, and I think probably the most important, but Italy.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
We were just talking about Tarzan. I think this is one of his best champions. There is a difference. You'll notice Tarzan's early game impact when he's on a carry versus when he's on when he's not. That's not to say that he's bad when he's off carries.
No, sure.
But you really feel it in the early game when he's on something like an Italy.
Also, just LPL Nidalees can be terrifying, right? And the sheer amount of CC and setup champs that are present in the meta right now that AD carries are mostly gone from mid lane, means she's kind of better than ever in a lot of situations.
Kalista priority for G2. That explains the Poppy ban right from the start.
Yep.
Ash removed as well. G2's coming with a clear game plan that they want to play towards the bot side of the map.
Do they also want to try something like the Nico, potentially? Obviously a champion, or do they want to just set up counterpick for Mikyx, I guess is the broader question, regardless of what it is.
You already talked about the LPL's priority around Jhin.
I don't like it. I think in the right circumstances, Jhin can be one of the best AD carries in the game, but it's so much more about the other stuff you put around him. I don't think he is the safe kind of early pick that most teams are using him as.
I was about to say the Rumble.
This is one of the picks that he needs to be the best AD in the meta.
Yeah, when you pair that up with the Rumble, we haven't seen it from Breathe so far at this tournament, but they are going to lock it in for him. I think that it's such a great flexible pick, and I think that many teams have been finding success with it, in particular around the team fights.
And this is
Orianna's still up, by the way.
And this is something that Xiaohu's already played. This is something that was banned against G2 for most of MSI, if I remember correctly.
But the thing is now, if you're G2, do you really want to play Orianna into this?
Immobile carries against Jhin Rumble feels terrible. So now we have Galio. Remember that this is entirely a flex. Top Galio was kind of the big rumored priority pick. We've seen it a little bit. Hasn't looked too great. Yeah, we didn't look too great there. We also saw it mid in the hands of Scout yesterday in our series between LNG and DK. So still some room for interpretation in terms of where this is actually going to go, but definitely can mitigate some of the upfront damage of the Rumble paired with Rell.
It's not support anymore.
Will feel nice. So right now, really great engage tools. Some good tools to mitigate any potential dive threat as well. Galio taunt is so good, or has been so good historically against any kind of dive threat.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't convinced by the Galio top. We'll see if things are different this time round. Assuming that it is for BrokenBlade, he was in Europe the big innovator for new top lane picks. He was the early adopter of the Rek'Sai top. He grabbed the Zac top as well. He's always been someone to try new stuff on the top side of the map. And we'll see if he does bring out this Galio. There's the Leona coming out for Crisp. I think this is definitely one of his preferred champions when you look across his career. Jhin Leona also just has great setup, and already Weibo have this fantastic siege composition. It's a bit old school, but like Rumble Ultimate into Jhin Ultimate, it's an easy way to force you off a tower, right? Yeah. And if you throw in a Maokai as well, perhaps, easy Merc Tread set up there.
Sure.
But it just provides so much utility and zone control around these neutral objectives.
One, I think this is the kind of the context that's important for both these picks. With Rumble nerf not as powerful early on, obviously the ult is still really good, but I think it's these two champions together that kind of amplifies both their powers so much. And if you're playing something as short range as Kalista, you really need to be able to pull the trigger and engage aggressively. But if you make a mistake against a duo like Rumble and Jhin, games fall apart very quickly. Now, seeing the Skarner taken away, obviously Tarzan thus far has been more about supporting the rest of the team, hasn't been on carry junglers. I imagine with so much damage in top lane, we will see the same be true. Sejuani another kind of long-range option to potentially... You can just keep G2 at arm's length.
But Weibo's thinking about mid-bans right now, I think, anyway. Yeah, there's the Vi. I thought G2 may consider the Vi. Now they have to raise questions around, do they want to get rid of maybe Sejuani? What jungler are they even considering right now? Jungle pool is getting pinched a decent amount.
With Kalista Galio, you really want some damage coming out of top and jungle. Galio can do a decent amount, but usually, you know, opting for
yeah, I see what you're saying. You're
defensive items early.
Something like a Viego, maybe.
I mean,
Jarvan, maybe.
Viego, big comfort pick for Yike. Obviously feels good when you can't.
I mean, you can see the G2. I think G2 was thinking about the Vi ban themselves, but once Weibo decided to do it, they've removed one of the comfort picks for Xiaohu in mid lane. You imagine mid lane's going to be saved for last, so we should see a jungler come through now. Sejuani is a possibility. Maybe even the Ivern. Perhaps it's a little bit too much on the... we talked about the Maokai earlier. There's going to be the lock-in. You are now kind of looking at maybe an AD mid laner. If they go for AP, it's a lot of magic damage on the side of Weibo. Into Galio, that's not ideal. But, like, I guess it's going to be a Tristana.
I think it has to be a Galio top at this point.
Yep.
This would be bold.
That would be interesting. Drawing some inspiration from
the VCS,
Gam, perhaps.
This is a champion that can be disrupted. Orianna instead going to be the option here. So likely we need AD in the jungle pool, and this is quite a combo in terms of disrupting the long-range threat that Weibo have brought to the table.
Now, we've been seeing at the World Championship teams utilize Nocturne's ultimate very effectively to create surprise engages so that champions can find good flanks even in warded up areas. And when you pair that with a Rell and a Galio, you can see how powerful the engage tools really are. Meanwhile, so for those that don't understand, G2 have this great kind of wombo combo set up with the team fight. The Orianna Nocturne is a very lethal combo that has easy access onto the backline. Meanwhile, Weibo, they have similar team fighting strengths. We already talked about the zone control that Rumble and Jhin together provide, but when you throw in a Maokai to boot, like around objectives, it becomes very difficult to approach or even start one just because of how much space Weibo can occupy. Tristana and Jhin going to be offering a lot of consistent DPS in the later game fights, and even after the nerfs, I think that Tristana is still a fine champion. But yeah, there's a lot of damage on the side of Weibo, that's for sure. We'll see if G2 can weather the storm and how this early game is going to play out, because we've had mixed performances from Weibo. One really good early game, one not so good one against Team Liquid. Whereas for G2, the criticism around their early game pretty much all year, as they focused on improving their mid game, which we see. They find good fights, they play the map well, but their early game has still been a point of discussion.
And it can be very difficult to come back against a composition like Weibo's when they have an advantage, when they can leverage that to get set up first. The sheer range, even if Nocturne can turn out the lights, it doesn't always mean that you'll be able to stop the kills from coming through. See a lot of G2 fans in the house, Weibo fans as well. Love to see it. I'm starting to feel the tension build. Wonder if this is how Jat and Raz felt in our previous game. Because as you said, Weibo can be a bit of an unknown quantity, but frankly, I really like what they put together in terms of the draft. Jhin, a champion that I think in the right circumstances can really take over games, really be such a fantastic powerhouse of a pick. We saw it in the Jackie Love game when he could get all those static shift procs, and Weibo have the recipe here to make that happen again.
But I also think the reason why this matchup is tense for EU fans specifically is that as the first seed from the LEC, as someone who internationally is expected to make it far, against the 4th seed from the LPL, on paper, this should be a favored matchup for G2.
Yeah.
If they want to stick by their convictions that they are able to contest the World Championship, right? Like, this is a matchup that they should be winning, which is why I think there's a lot on the line for the side of G2. For Weibo, of course, a roster where their expectations have been very low. From the outside in, it's difficult to gauge how strong this Weibo is, and the fact that they've continued to surprise. Last year's World Championship, this year in terms of their LPL playoff run, they're a team that's able to find that magic, and I think a lot of it comes off the back of Tarzan's consistency in terms of his early game impact, and then Light. This man is incredibly consistent in terms of his damage output, his laning phase, and G2 are putting a lot of emphasis in the early game on their bot lane 2 versus 2.
Definitely are. I want to draw attention briefly to the mid lane just because there is so much history here. And of course, favoring Xiaohu. It's important to note a lot of these games happened in the Fnatic era when LEC as a whole, or EU LCS at the time, weren't able to compete. When Xiaohu was really dominating with RNG across the board, it was Perkz really who had the better record against Xiaohu. Now we'll have to see if this is a new chapter for this particular rivalry. As you said, bot lane early at least. Gonna be a big center of attention. It's on Mikyx. Nice exchange there. Ignite for Ignite overall.
Both AD carries relatively healthy. Level 2 going to be coming through soon. Oh, Xiaohu gets a nice trade onto Caps there. Orianna does have the ability to consistently hit her opponent thanks to her Clockwork Wind-Up passive. Yep. But Tristana is still Tristana. So as long as she keeps hitting you in the face, she's going to do a lot of damage. On the top side of the map, we can see the Galio getting a bit of push in the 1v1 matchup. BrokenBlade going for the Aftershock, providing him those extra bit of resistances. There's that magic shield from his W. Not going to be at a very high level early on. It is going to help him get some very nice trades. Maybe even
really
a kill.
Good trades.
Oh
Nice. On the E!
BrokenBlade just finds it. So this is what the Galio does in the matchup. You get the early push, you get the level advantage, finds a solo kill onto Breathe. BrokenBlade holding on to the moniker of best top laner in Europe.
And this is so crucial. Because it's not just about the laning phase, but Rumble has so much impact on what this composition of Weibo can do, putting him down early, delaying a level 6, getting a lead for this Galio. It's big for the side of G2 Esports. A misstep from Breathe, obviously a bit of an unconventional matchup. We don't see it that much outside of solo.
I mean, who would expect that to just get...
I just always love the E backwards. Because you can obviously, you can hit it on the wind-up if you go backwards.
But also, there was this change when Galio got this like mini rework where the passive just comes up a lot more often now. And I think that Breathe just wasn't kind of expecting that to come out so quickly because the damage from BrokenBlade really caught him unawares. No flash, ended up being burnt. And yeah, small lead. Merc treads. Magic resistance already being bought by BrokenBlade.
Definitely. The early itemization going to favor him a lot. Hansama forced to cleanse here as Tarzan's on the way in. Bit of an overstep. Might be some bad information where the enemy jungler was, but an easy and fast kill pick up at the side of Weibo. Tarzan taking the kill. Maybe not ideal, but didn't want to wait for Light to reload.
A crucial mistake from Hans as he overstays for the wave, making sure that it gets underneath the tower. Mikyx thinks that he's safe to allow him to push that in, but Tarzan's in a position to collapse, doing a full clear from his top side towards bot, and just like that, Weibo have equalized the kill score.
Good opportunity recognition from the side of Weibo, and for G2, reminds me of yesterday, right? BrokenBlade was doing fine in the top lane 1v1 for the early game, and G2's bot lane was winning initially, but they overstayed a little bit, and it cost them. Part of the reason why that early game was so rough against Hanwha Life. This mid lane match, however, much more even than yesterday's was.
Crucially, both of Hansama's summoners are now gone. Light expended his flash as well, but still has the cleanse available. So while the top side of the map going favorably for G2, the bot side of the map, small advantage gained for Weibo.
I will say that slowing BrokenBlade down is a tall task for Weibo. They have exclusively magic damage on jungle top. BrokenBlade's naturally going to build magic resist. Hollow Radiance likely to be the first item.
I mean, Merc Treads gets a lot of value.
Merc Treads, Hollow Radiance, you're going to have wave clear, and he might, I don't know if he can win the 2v1, but he can certainly live for quite a long time.
Sure. Naturally, Galio doesn't have a huge amount of damage if you're not building for it, especially.
No.
But yeah, we kind of take stock of the map. I wonder if we'll see some resets come through soon. The Grubs are going to be up in 30 seconds. TP's committed from both solo laners.
At the same time,
no rotation just yet from Hansama.
And keep in mind, BrokenBlade could have probably walked back to top. You can see the wave's in a position where he didn't necessarily need to immediately TP, but wants to have that prio. Wants to be able to open up Grubs as a potential option, or at least very least reset the wave. Now the TP from Xiaohu. Early itemization, just some mercs to make it through the laning phase. Again, pretty high value. Yike going to be first on the Grubs, but Weibo going to be playing around the bottom side instead. Have a lot of really good scaling tools, so setting themselves up for a potential Drake win condition does make sense. Conceding Grubs early is always a bit of a risk. Likely means they will have to contest the second spawn, but for now, just the trade of objectives.
Wisely done by Weibo. I think they recognize that trying to fight on the top side probably isn't the smartest choice for them. Instead, they'll just play around the fact that there's a wave pushing on the bot side of the map. Easy trade of objectives. The Rumble can just drop the ulti into the top lane, which is exactly what Breather's going to do. You can see that skill on cooldown, catch that top wave, go back to base. Not much the BrokenBlade can do about it. Meanwhile, G2's bot lane has to play on the weak side. They'll catch the wave being pushed in. And ultimately, just a trade of objectives. So relatively slow early game. Impressive stuff from BrokenBlade, and a nice punish from Weibo to catch out Han Summer. Summoners slowly coming off cooldown. And we're kind of setting our sights on the next grub spawn in about 3.5 minutes as Nocturne now ticking over to 6. Tarzan looking to do the same in the near future.
Should be a big fight. We'll see who can get favorable setup. Both supports also racing to get level 6 as quickly as they can. Obviously last year when Herald spawned at 8 minutes, so much of the discussion was that arms race for support level 6 this year. Can't contest it on first grubs, but second grubs should be able to have it reliably. And honestly, just a very, very tense game. And this is interesting because I think we expected kind of today to be this all-out bloodbath, but a lot of our games have been very reserved for both teams.
Except game 1.
Except for game 1. Game 1 not reserved. Game 1 needed to be reserved.
Yes. But it was not.
It was not.
Cap's looking for a bit of a trade onto Xiaohu. Crisp there to cover. Similar position for Mikyx. I think both supports are a little outside of XP range. Mikyx gonna clear out that ward.
A lot of emphasis on topside control here. Waves crashing in. I guess just looking to set up some control wards for future plays, future objectives. Keep eyes on Yike, obviously post level 6. Paranoia can't always just be such a powerful tool to punish side laners, to punish anyone for overstepping on waves.
Mikyx in a good position, but going to be spotted out by Crisp. Both supports should aim to try and get their level 6 ASAP. And the next scrub spawn is in 2 minutes' time. Yike continues to power farm through his jungle. Tarzan a little bit behind on the clears, you'd kind of expect. Yike hasn't really looked for any ganks as of yet. He does have some setup on the bot side of the map, but with all their summoners available, it may be a little bit tricky. I think his first use of the ultimate is largely going to come off the back of Caps trying to find that wombo combo.
We're really gearing up for a big fist fight around the next objective. All of these summoner spells coming back up, neither side. Going for too many aggressive moves. You can see G2 kind of forced to retreat here, not having an early support itemization, not having any wards in inventory does mean they don't have tri-brush control, and it's the looming threat of Tarzan appearing in their lane for the side of G2 is just always there without that information.
It's going to come through from Mikyx, who is now finally level 6. Crisp actually still short on that experience. Merc Tread's now secured for Mikyx, along with the control wards. Tiamat picked up as well. Perhaps the Phage, I missed which one came first. But Stride Breaker on its way for Yike, regardless. Here are the grubs now, 55 seconds. We've been talking a lot about them because I'm curious as to whether or not you imagine that G2 is going to have a priority on them, and the question is Weibo going to look to try and fight, given that there's still a minute discrepancy between the Dragon and the grubs, or instead will they concede it, perhaps look for some pressure on the bot side of the map?
Mikyx trying to create some pressure. I think maybe hoping to contest Xiaohu at least a little bit on his mid push here to ensure that they do have first access to the grubs. And when we talk about this G2 composition, it's not that they necessarily have the strongest side laners in the world, but whenever you build a composition with Nocturne, your side lanes just naturally get that much better, and you can really leverage this grub buff.
Certainly can. Notice that the bot lane of Weibo has made their way up, so it looks like they're eager to contest. Han Summer making a beeline towards there now. Cleared out that wave.
Caps. He's prioritized first item completion. He has no boots. He just rushed that Ludens, wanting to be more powerful for the fight.
Nice spike to have for sure.
Downside of double 80 carries, you have no item spikes.
Remember, BrokenBlade doesn't actually have to rotate down if he doesn't want to. He can just keep the Rumble pushed and then has the ultimate available. Let's see how G2 can utilize the Nocturne ultimate as Weibo now trying to find space. Remember the amount of zone control they have, though. Maokai ultimate, Rumble ultimate, Jhin ulti.
This might be a situation where G2 just take the 4th grub and walk away.
They're looking for more.
Right now, Weibo Gaming are just window shopping. They don't have an angle into
Rumble's
the objective.
too far away, that's why.
Might get the 4th grub buff.
You're completely right.
Strike.
Weibo have just sat and watched.
And this is the problem, is they're waiting for that window of opportunity to leverage their composition, but G2 just don't really give them the angle, and they don't feel confident to just force and start the fight, and as a result, they show up to watch another team get a 6th grub buff.
Now, G2 have said, we're quite happy to concede the next dragon, you can have it, because now we've got 6 grubs, and Kalista can be left alone in top lane. Breathe will have the ultimate available to clear out this wave. I think the idea from G2 is to maybe funnel some plates into Hansama, but I don't think this plan is going to pay off just because of the Rumble ulti.
Difficult. BrokenBlade, obviously when you're playing out on a side lane.
Oh, the dive. Smart play from G2, but again, here's the Rumble ulti that we were just talking about.
I think it's important to stress G2 playing incredibly well around the second grub spawn. Caps sacrificing himself in terms of boots, which would have helped the lane a lot to prioritize that first major item completion to make sure they were stronger. It does require them to concede the Drake, but now they're about to knock down the first tower of the game.
They're really committed for this, and I think it's a good gold injection. They're sharing it across 3. I'm a little surprised that they would give some of that gold to Mikyx, but that's first tower. That's a lot of gold.
This is a very big gold lead. Weibo are setting themselves up for a Cloud Soul kind of win condition or a way to force a 5v5. But G2 are very rapidly accumulating a pretty significant lead.
Notice that they've put Xiaohu into BrokenBlade with the idea being, ha, you've built all this magic resistance and we have an AD mid laner. That means that our Tristana can actually do damage to you. And then BrokenBlade has said, okay, I'm happy to play this matchup, but that does mean that your Rumble is now at risk of being dived. And so, what could Breathe do there? He threw the ultimate down, the idea was good, but then the next wave spawned, he's zoned away from the wave. Look, he's cautious to even approach this, because as you highlighted earlier, Nocturne, side lanes, scary, real scary, because if you overstep, the ability to collapse is very quick.
Right now, the good news is it's only rank 1 of ultimate, and mid lane tower is still standing. When that one falls, it's so easy for G2 to get access to Weibo's jungle. But this is a situation where G2 are leveraging the power of their composition in the 6 grubs, but now Weibo want to punish Caps for overstaying, but here comes the Galio to try to disrupt the play. Mikyx ready to turn as well. G2 should just be content to retreat. Maokai ultimate hitting 2, 4 shot on the Caps, trying to get him out of the exchange. G2, do they want this fight? They already absorbed the engage, they got what they came for in the bottom lane. No, they're not gonna take the 5v5, they just go right back for the tower, knowing Weibo doesn't have a wave to play around. Caps can recall and TP right back to mid.
He has to be careful about that TP though, the risk of a dive is still very real. Maokai ulti used, but Breathe, his ulti is gonna be up available soon. Light and Crisp also use their engages. Smart TP from Caps onto the tier 2.
The plates are still up for a brief moment, so they don't really have a way to threaten the entire tower.
I mean, the criticism coming in was, can G2 play the early game well? I can say with confidence they're playing the early game well. They're leveraging the strength of the early grubs that they set up for cleanly. They're playing around the fact that Hansama is as strong as he is, and they secure top tower, funnel that gold into Hansama and Yike, then rotate towards bot, leverage the push they have to unlock that tower as well. And on top of that, Caps should have been caught, doesn't burn the flash, TP's back to mid, keeps the tower alive, and now they can have Hans and Mikyx come mid with Caps to start sieging onto this final outer tower.
And Xiaohu's still fighting to complete that first item, which means that it's very likely that Weibo cannot contest this Herald, which means that G2 are very likely to break mid, but they don't even need the Herald. They have so much pressure. They see Xiaohu bottom lane, they know he has no TP, they know Breathe has no TP, so they're gonna at least get a massive chunk here. They're gonna stick around.
They're committing to this tower, and they will secure it. 3 towers, back to back to back. 15 minutes in, and the best they can get is a cross map on the bot side. Xiaohu trying to unlock this tower, but the Herald available as well. That top wave in an awkward spot, someone has to go and catch it.
Caliber of early game we have not seen from G2
in a while.
In quite some time.
They are just playing the map so much better than Weibo
we might
is.
even have to go back to one of those the first T1 series at MSI to find something like this. But
I mean,
for
international viewers, right, like, Dregs and I have cast G2 all year long.
No, you guys don't understand. They just lose and then come back because their macro's good. They just die randomly early game and then they come back. And they're really good at coming back.
Yeah, their summer was not great. Their summer was not great at all. And like the biggest question coming into this World Championship was, can they clear up their early game? So to see them have an early game like this is a surprise, but a welcome one.
And I mean, Mikyx talked about it.
I think his quote was, if I just don't int, we would have won against HLE.
I mean, that could be one of many interviews. But, you know, talked a lot about the team ramping up and feeling like the HLE game was winnable despite a rough early game, and that giving the team confidence and that they're building towards that final form. But, of course, pro players are always going to say that.
True.
You know what I mean? They're always going to be like, yeah, we got it. We're one step away. To see it come to fruition. Impressive stuff thus far. When we look at Weibo on the opposite side, however, Leandri's is completed. Kraken is completed. You've got a Shiv. There are tools now to fight on at least more even footing with G2. As long as they don't finish those second item spikes, you have a reasonable angle to contest them.
And don't forget, Weibo found themselves behind against Team Liquid. Team Liquid made a couple fumbles, and then Weibo were able to fight their way back in.
Speaking of, Mikyx in trouble now. The
Crisp
lights
is dead.
turned off. Crisp is dead. G2 quick to turn, and now they're going to try to lock down Xiaohu, isolate him out of the fight. BrokenBlade stepping up. Taunt is there. Fear there onto Xiaohu. Nice use of the spell shield to stop the knockback coming in. They're trying to turn it back with the rumble. Light still standing for now. Caps is going to be the one in trouble. Breathe and Light turning the fight for a moment, but Yike able to take down Xiaohu. BrokenBlade trying to get involved as well, but Mikyx is getting lower and lower. Yike needs to try and clean up. Weibo happy with the fight thus far. One more shot. Will it be enough? Light still standing. Hatsama can't get involved. He needs to finish off this Galio. BrokenBlade, can he make the difference? A messy, scrappy fight, but the curtains are called. G2 need to be quick. The footwork needs to be good. One side step. Hans! Taken out. Maybe thought BrokenBlade was going to body block, but that is huge for Weibo.
And it's the team fighting capability of Weibo that comes through. Crisp's initiation is a little bit disconnected from the rest of the team, but the overchase from G2 ends up being punished. You'll notice here, as Mikyx tries to get vision, the collapse comes in, but Crisp immediately gets collapsed on thanks to all these globals that come through from G2. Then they try to force the fight, but the fight on two fronts, while Yike is turning his attention to Xiaohu with Mikyx at his assistance. Look at this Rumble ultimate onto Caps and Hans as we turn our attention back to live.
Just a bit of split attention there. Needed to finish off Xiaohu, so he couldn't get back into the fight, but Mikyx not being there means they lost so much of that CC. G2, though, still priority access on the objective. They've already cleared out tier 1 mid, so they will grab this Drake. They will slow the sole option from the side of Weibo. For now, G2 still hold the lead, but it's a reminder of how good Weibo can be in those fights if G2 falter for even a moment.
Yeah, I mean, the fight was disconnected, and Weibo immediately took advantage of that. They realized, hang on, they've split their resources too far, and we can punish this. A really nice ulti came through from Breathe. Light's positioning was fantastic. 3-0-2 the scoreline now for him. He's still behind a little bit in terms of gold, but he is a full level up over Hansama. We talked about him coming into this game, how he's been that consistent, reliable carry for Weibo. And he's looking to do the same thing here to bring Weibo back into this game.
G2 have to play carefully. Obviously, we've seen Jhin games where he's not able to do a whole ton. A lot of people skeptical about how good the static shift can be. But if you're able to find those resets and fights, it can do so much work. Scrappy back and forth fight. G2 trying to assert their dominance on the top side of the map.
Both supports covering for their mid laners. Jungler's not that far behind. Yike looking for an ult angle. As BrokenBlade actually takes the mid wave. Hansama moving up towards top. Not sure what the game plan is here for G2 as they overstack on the top side of the map.
But they see Yike, which is crucial because Breathe can now push as far as he wants to.
Yeah, I mean, all the waves are being caught right now. Nice push in from Breathe. BrokenBlade's going to head towards bot. Looks like nothing too dramatic is going to come off the back of that.
I mean, we're 40 seconds away from Baron. G2 can't really threaten at this stage, although Kalista obviously very strong on helping you secure the objective. Either side gets it, honestly. It's pretty difficult for the opposition to slow that push without engaging completely.
2 items now finished for Light. I imagine that he's going to start building the big damage items next.
Hansama really wants to finish this next item.
Still a ways off it though. Finds himself still a full level behind that of Light.
Good discipline from Weibo, waiting to see more members on the map before Chris steps too far forward. Once he sees him on the wave, he knows he can walk in, has the team to back him up.
Patient play overall, as neither team really sees an easy objective to play for. Weibo would love to unlock more of these outer towers, but difficult. They can't really find many opportunities on the map. G2, though, conversely, unless they start sieging onto a tier 2, there's not much that they can really do. Herald's actually going to be dropped. They're going to send that towards the bot lane as Caps is there. Has that escape route as he has used a few times throughout the year. Xiaohu chipping away at that tower. BrokenBlade TP up going to be soon.
While G2 happy to put Caps on the Orianna, obviously is going to have the same side lane threat they were used to in their previous game with the Yone. So we'll need to be a bit more conservative on when they push out and fight for these tier 2s. Top lane tier 1 dropping down, and Weibo really starting to even out the gold. Again, item completion's the big thing, and with Jhin at least slightly ahead of the curve, Xiao can finish his second item as well. We're on pretty good footing to start coming out on top in these 5v5s.
You can see Tarzan giving up some of his farm to help funnel Xiaohu. Will spot any vision thanks to the Scuttle Crab. Much ready to be found though. BrokenBlade, the Riftmaker second, something that we often see on Galios to give them a bit of consistent damage. Grouping once again from G2 in the mid lane. Hunt's now finishing off the Rage Blade, so Cap's really the only one that hasn't been able to complete his item ahead of the Dragon Fight in about 1:20. He should still have time and has the TP available, but they're prioritizing getting gold into Han Sama. They set their sights on the mids tier 2. Not going to overstay their welcome. I think Xiaohu has to be close to his item. He's waiting in base.
Dragon in 1:10.
Waiting.
Timer counting down. BrokenBlade set to push the side wave out.
Navori now completed for Xiaohu.
So such a big spike for Tristana too.
And the BF sword picked up for Light as well. So, I mean, Weibo's getting into a good spot here, ready for the next fight. The Rumble, relatively weaker to BrokenBlade, but ultimately still has the Liandry, so that red carpet's going to dish out some serious damage.
And sometimes when you have follow-up like a Jhin ultimate, all that really matters is a little bit of damage from the Rumble and the slow it provides to ensure you can just isolate those targets. It's hard for Caps to play this out. He's really the most immobile champion on this team. Luckily has the Galio ult to protect him, but if they're using it too defensively, it's going to cost them in some of the fights.
I mean, it's a tense affair. You can tell that a lot of this game is going to come down to the ensuing fights. G2 turning their attention away.
Tarzan on the side. Initial ulti going wide. Nice side step from G2. Deadly Flourish also there. TP from Breathe.
Wow, that was a quick response. Weibo were really poised to fight there. They use Crisp's ulti. Now the Dragon becomes a much easier objective to take without one of the engaged tools available. Breathe forced to catch the bot wave once again.
Top wave's not in a bad spot for G2 either. Weibo behind on the play. They can maybe try to rush Baron, but this would be incredibly greedy. They're going to start it though, realizing they don't really have any recourse to stop G2 from taking the Drake.
But it's too ambitious because G2 can just leave the Kalista to take it alone. She's more than happy to solo this objective, especially with the Rend, and that means that the Orianna can be in a position to zone the enemy away.
G2
Crisp
have to stay composed here. Going in onto Yike. Caps isolated. Tarzan now trying to follow up. Nocturne turns the lights off, and they're managing to burn through G2. Mikyx trying to make his way out to safety. Yike already retreating. Weibo, they needed that fight. They find it, and now they can turn to the Baron.
Great target selection from Weibo. They find an angle behind Caps, not giving him an opportunity to flash away. They're not even going to try and steal away the Baron. Objective secured. G2 trying to get what else they can on the map.
It is going to take a bit of time, though. They'll at least knock down a tier 2. They'll keep the gold close. Light stepping far forward. G2 don't have perfect information. They can't afford to approach. Well played by Weibo. They knew they lost the Dragon. They really had to find that pick, or they would have lost out big time on the map.
Just a great collapse, all in all. You'll see the chain CC that comes down onto Caps, and there's so little they can do. That angle from Tarzan on the left. Chris looks like that he's overstaying. He connects onto Yike, but this just gives him the ability to get on top of Caps, and look at that chain CC. Root into connect from the Jhin. They followed up with a pick onto Mikyx, who doesn't bother flashing away, realizing there's little that he can do to get away. And that converts into a Baron for Weibo. Because of the 2 towers secured by G2, I believe they actually still hold on to the gold lead for now. But this is going to be much easier with 2 outer towers still available. There's a lot of standing gold. Oh, I say that 1 tower did drop in the top lane. Standing gold available for Weibo to grab at least in the mid lane.
Important to even things up. Again, 80 carry, 3rd item spike's going to feel very good for Weibo. For G2, you're in a situation where they really set that play up better around the Drake, but Weibo really recognized that window of opportunity to force G2 to come up to them, to threaten the Baron, and then were able to find that engage. Yike maybe a little bit late on the paranoia, you could say. Didn't really have too much effect on the fight. And now we're in a much more even game state, but with Weibo, the next minute and 40 seconds, they control the map.
I mean, this is the thing. It's a lot harder for G2 to level.
Engage on a Breathe. They get the Seekers out. Weibo, are they in a position to follow up? Ulti from Mikyx not going to connect, but they get the flash out of Breathe. Meanwhile, Xiaohu in the side lane. Someone's eventually going to need to respond. G2 seems like they want to force the fight. Your eyes on Yike.
To overstay here.
Tarzan sticking around. Xiaohu now trying to get involved. Where's the ulti going to go? They need to isolate a carry. They need to get Yike on top of a key target. Breathe. They know he's got nothing left. They want to finish him off. Good equalizer, but BrokenBlade is there to fall off the Rumble out of the equation. A reset now coming in. BrokenBlade into 2. Both 80 carries taken off the board for a brief moment. Going gold in the meantime. Chris buying a bit more space. Han Sama trying to follow, but Xiaohu and Light are still alive. Light still standing. 1 bullet. The first static reset. Light ready to take over a 4-shot. There, Xiaohu trying to get out. It's a close battle. It's a back and forth. Light. Can he get it done? He's getting lower and lower. He needs to reload. He's got 4 shots. There's 3 opponents. If he can find the kill, the math might work in his favor. The spear Coming in, Caps finishes it with the wind-up. Xiaohu versus the world now. Desperate to get the rocket jump reset. He's going to get one, but he will go down. It's a close fight, but G2 take it in the end.
It's an ace for G2 off the back of BrokenBlade's heroics. He finds a crucial two-man knock-up into Taunt, setting up the whole fight. You'll notice here at the start, G2 turned their attention onto Breathe, isolated as Mikyx becomes the target. Xiaohu's not in a good position to follow up, and the near sight from the Nocturne ultimate makes it hard for him to follow. The Galio ultimate coming through, and then Hanzo ultimate, and this flash, Torn into knock-up, it's the two crucial carries. It buys enough time for G2 to reposition. Xiaohu and Light's forced to retreat, and then the fight gets split up. BrokenBlade and Caps turn their attention to the top side. Light almost single-handedly turns the fight around if it weren't for the tower. But then he's forced to retreat as Caps regroups with the team. Xiaohu with the TP tries to turn the play around, but then Light takes too much damage. The Leandries finishes him off, and while Xiaohu almost cleans up the fight, it's too much damage, and it's G2 that walk away with an ace.
Incredible fight from both sides. Light was one auto away from killing 3 members of G2. All it would have taken is one more static proc, and he would have been able to clean up the rest. Incredibly close fight. They have to be careful with the Jhin in the future. He's only getting stronger. You see 4K damage. Hansama able to auto attack so consistently, manages to outmatch him. But this is a game of inches. Centimeters, it's so damn close.
I mean, but regardless, like, BrokenBlade is the MVP of this game. This man is having
Solo kill top.
An incredible performance. Weibo haven't really found a reliable way to deal with him yet. It's so difficult, though, with the Nocturne ultimate, and then the Galio can come, and you just can't see it coming. It's so difficult to navigate your way through those fights. Weibo kind of need to be the ones to initiate.
And crucially, Light is flashless. He's so vulnerable to that combo in the next fight. Breathe flashless as well. Hasn't got enough money to complete the Zanyas either.
There we go.
But it's BrokenBlade who's potentially been caught out. Initial taunt looks good. He's going to try to ult to his teammates. Forced back. Goes gold and the rest of the team now on the way. Yike does have ultimate. Do they want to go for this one, or they do want to accept the loss? Beautiful pick from the side of Weibo.
I mean, they're doing a good job of keeping Xiaohu on a side lane. Typically a strength that you associate with Caps on the Orianna. He just can't do what Xiaohu's been doing this game. He's been getting so many resources. He got that tier 2 tower in the top lane as well. He has a 2-level advantage over Caps, and he is at 3 fully completed items. They know that he's the one carry that can shut down BrokenBlade, and they're able to catch him off on a side lane.
Big for the Baron setup. A minute now. Top wave pushing in will demand a response. Mid lane slightly in favor of G2.
I mean, Xiaohu is really the big I say Xiaohu's the problem. Light's
also a problem.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't going to be an easy road. G2 won the last fight. But you can see how Xiaohu still has the tools to make this game complicated in a way in which G2 often leverage the side lane to convert games in their favor. Xiaohu can do the same thing in this game. Level 16 being ticked over for many members on both sides.
I mean, Tristana's also got a lot of range, the reset potential here, but it looks like G2 want to try and find a fight, want to try and find a pick of their own. They spot out Tarzan. How many resources can they afford to burn to kill this jungle? It looks like they're willing to spend all of them as Tarzan's about to fall. He tries to flash the stage, but the Rend is there. BrokenBlade again off to the side. He finds the Jhin. Isolated, but Breathe is there to protect him, to keep him standing. G2 want to keep going. They know they can take the Baron. 8 seconds. Jungler dead. They should just be able to grab it, but Weibo not dropping anybody else, refusing to fall.
They don't have the Rumble ultimate, which is such a valuable tool. Light gets sent back to base. They have a little bit of vision thanks to the Scuttle Crab, but Tarzan's death is likely going to cost the Baron. How are they going to steal this one away with the Rend available too? They're going to try their best to fight their way back in.
Weibo approaching. Light standing back, 8 seconds till the curtain call. This should just be G2's Baron. They recognize they have no access, no way to get in. G2, great pick onto Tarzan, recognizing that window of opportunity to take a jungler out.
I like the idea there from Yike as well. Groups up with BrokenBlade, immediately turn their attention onto Light, trusting the other members of the team to clean up the pick onto Tarzan. Means that they almost got Light as well. He's only forced to burn the cleanse though. Just like that, Baron secured for G2. They need to reset though, shouldn't overstay their welcome. And you're seeing how difficult this composition is for Weibo to navigate. Functionally, if they're the ones to initiate, the layering of their ultimates can be massive, especially onto a low mobility carry like this Orianna. They can really limit the movement of a Kalista as well. Unfortunately, they haven't really been given many opportunities to set that one up. Outside of the pick that they were able to find on Caps, a lot of the fights have been set on G2's terms. There was a situation in the bot lane where G2 over-committed and over-forced for the fight in which Weibo could turn things around. But whenever it's G2 to initiate with the Nocturne ultimate, Weibo just, it's so difficult for them to fight their way back.
And with G2 having the Baron empowering their push, allowing them to set up this vision first, the opportunity for Weibo to start those long-range engages just really isn't there right now. Minute 45.
Look at Tristana once
Left
again
on the
though in the
Baron.
mid lane.
Xiaohu sees that he has an angle. Hard for anyone really to match him. BrokenBlade a threat. Ulti there. Tarzan trying to kick things off. Breathe an ultimate as well. A lot of resources burned to try and stop the push here, but there's another Baron wave coming in. They're going to have to concede this inhibitor.
Double ulti.
They have to be ready to go straight for the 5v5 if they don't want to lose this. But I think they should just give it up.
They're going to. Look at mid lane as well. BrokenBlade keeping the push up, ready with his ultimate to join the fray at any moment.
G2 have to be careful though. Walking through that choke is such a risky proposition. Tarzan not having ult though is big. Weibo, I think conceding their ultimate ability just a little bit too early. Now gonna have to give more. Nice ulti coming in from Breathe. No immediate follow-up. Hansama quick to cleanse here. Flashes on all the carries. Cleanse down for Hans.
The 6 grubs doing so much work as well.
G2 continuing to push forward. Tarzan once again isolated from the rest of the team. BrokenBlade going in, taunted up by Chris. Nice stun to stop from pushing forward. BrokenBlade getting lower and lower. Dash through. A decent angle. Curtain call there. Xiaohu hoping to find the resets. Ulti coming out from Yike to try to get some more space for his team. Xiaohu now looking to follow. Sterix gauge big there. Xiaohu has to be careful though. It's a greedy move. It's going to cost him. Burn down. He thought he had the angle, but G2 playing with discipline. Just back off.
He was looking for a moment of resets. Get that first kill, reset comes through. Maybe he can clean up the fight. But unfortunately, it doesn't come to fruition. A lot of flashes were burnt on the side of G2, but they get 2 inhibitors. The dragon spawns in 50 seconds, but maybe they don't care about it. With a few, well, with not much time left on the Baron, maybe they're setting their sights on the top lane.
Breathe does now have the Zhonya's, but he has no flash. Xiaohu has no flash, and that is massive for G2. Makes it so much easier for them to play out this fight. Xiaohu, you can understand why he went for it. The rocket jump resets, the static resets, the ability for Jhin to back him up from range. The montage potential was there, but the team was not in position, and it only puts them further behind. 1 inhibitor left. G2 can't afford to take risks. But in their position, set up to close this one out clean.
I mean, Xiaohu's still dead. If nothing else, they'll set up for this last inhibitor tower. The grubs once again doing work. Tarzan trying to be off on the flank, has the ulti available. They're gonna go.
Spotted. Crisp ulti, the last chance. Redemption there. Crisp into the back line. Tarzan off on the side. Yike doing what he can to body block. Good movement for G2 to get away from the ulti. BrokenBlade, decent ulti, but they've already lost Mikyx. G2, do they want to keep going forward? Resets now coming in. Light 4 shot. Not doing a lot. Xiaohu off to the side. No flash, but might not need it. Re-engage now coming in. Beautiful combo on the Orianna. Hansama on a rampage. Can they clean the fight? A 3v3 now. No way, but they might not need it. Xiaohu rocket jumping out. G2.
Look at the base, look at the base. It's falling apart for Weibo. It's a 2 for 2, sorry, as 3 members remain alive, but Caps has the TP available to him. He's gonna TP back to top lane.
They want to close it. 36 seconds on light, 28 on Crisp. Breathe, no ultimate. Xiaohu has his. It would require a miracle. G2 continuing to push. They've got supers. They've got so much in their favor. The 3-man core standing strong. But Xiaohu, Breathe, and Tarzan want to make the difference. Xiaohu going in. Hansama backing away. BrokenBlade with an excellent 2-man taunt. Caps there to follow up, and now Breathe is going to be in trouble. Knockback from Xiaohu, who is clutch, buying a bit more space, but BrokenBlade just does not take damage. Tarzan in trouble now. Blade of the Rune King procced. BrokenBlade single-handedly zoning, but G2 need to get the hell out. They bought enough time. Light is about to respawn. G2 could be in trouble. Yes, they found the kill. Charlotte comes alive. Caps turns it back, but Crisp is now on the hunt. Light has the ulti. Curtains opened. Hansama gets out, though, crucially.
Mikyx
the
back in the
following. BrokenBlade still standing. Breathe, the blinking health bar. Hansama has the damage. The TP coming in. Caps is here. Paranoia is here. G2 want to end it. They've isolated the AD carry away. Do they just want to focus the Nexus? Caps trying to get a bit more space. Light still standing. 4 bullets. Hansama pulling him back. Breathe getting so much damage down. Mikyx knows that he keeps Light out. G2 will end the game. Crisp down. Light running. G2 will take down Weibo.
A close affair with crazy clutch fights. That final combo being pulled off by Yike and Caps. Hansama doesn't hesitate to flash in and follow up on the damage dealt. G2 needed to make a statement at this World Championship, and they will take down the LPL 4th seed.
An incredibly close game. But we've said enough. As the boys take their bow, let's send it back to the analyst desk.
Perfectly close, but not close enough. I loved it.
What a good day.
Yeah.
They just gave us a good show, too.
Everybody wins.
Yeah.
Except for the 4 teams that lost, but
everybody wins.
Everyone
somehow.
wins.
I mean, think about it. We got the T1 upset because
Yeah.
everyone loves seeing Faker and T1 go as deep as possible. FlyQuest won, NA happy, G2 wins, EU happy.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the trifecta.
That's a thumbs up.
And it's the reassuring win, I feel, that G2 was looking for.
Yeah.
Especially against Weibo.
It got close, of course, just to make it entertaining.
Oh.
And they guaranteed an entertaining win. And the team fights, I felt like, were really fun to watch. Weibo put up a fight, of course. The Baron
Guess who
area
wants to
pick.
be on the winner's couch now?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just waiting for this.
You're waiting.
It's fine, but sorry, interrupted you. You had
No,
a
that's
really
good.
interesting
No, that's
point.
a good clapback, actually. But yes, the Baron fight made it a little dicey. But it seemed like they were just caught off by the Galio. The Galio damage when Tristana was jumping in and then got hit by the Q. Also the solo kill that went through. And so why not just talk about it? I feel like we should. Player of the game just goes straight to BrokenBlade.
Absolutely. And it's funny because we heard about the Galio into Rumble matchup at MSI. We did not see it at all. And when we think Rumble is not a champion anymore, it comes here. I love this solo kill. This proves, I feel like we're going to see Galio a bit more into this matchup.
Yeah.
Absolutely. WQE. He did the backwards E to get the surprise damage on the Rumble, and then he was just a force throughout the rest of the game, making it extremely difficult for Weibo to actually commit to any fights.
Yeah, I mean, for a while throughout the day, we were wondering who's going to be the Oppo player of the game. It makes sense that after this game, seeing the solo kill, seeing how he was dictating a lot of the fights. The ulti to guarantee the safety for Nocturne, because he was not just yeeting himself in for with the Orianna ball. It was just a full-on committal. So I was like, how effective was the Maokai going to be? Not effective enough.
For me, this is a good win because of the way that G2 won.
Yeah.
It wasn't some, like, throw early game a bunch, other like, even the way G2 beat Weibo last year, where they threw Baron, there was a Dragon Soul, it was a crazy game. They actually had, to me, a lot of control for most of this game.
And cleaner early game, we'll talk about this a bit later, but Shox is standing by on chat with Yike for the Verizon post-game interview.
As the studio erupts for Yike and for G2, our Nocturne in this game. Yike, a fantastic victory, but what I can only imagine from your side must have been a nerve-wracking one because of that mid-game, because of the picks that they were able to get. So talk to me about kind of the shot calling and the planning and the difficulty in driving it home.
Yeah, so I think we picked a we had a very good comp this game. I think we had like Nocturne, Orianna, Rell, Galio, we had like a really big wombo combo. And we were trying to do it a lot this game, but they were really respecting it. So it was very hard for us to just find opportunities. And that was like what made it hard for us. But I think we got like a lot. We got all of the objectives after the 2 dragons they got. And then it was just kind of easy because they didn't really contest anything.
Yeah, I wasn't actually sure what was... I wasn't actually sure what was going on because your early game was so clean, you weren't overstepping, you were going for the macro. Talk to me about that kind of specific working point going into this game.
Yeah, I mean, I always want to make sure that we have a good early game plan, and I think this game was pretty good. I think we wanted to play for the grubs. We got a lot of towers as well. They got dragons, but I think that's fine. I think it's a fine trade, and I think we just got so ahead, and then it was just easy for us to play, and I think we just made some mistakes after, but that happens.
Yeah, it happens indeed. It was such an important victory to move on to 2-1. I was speaking to your father yesterday, who's of course here to support you as he has been with the rest of his family. And it was before your first game, and I asked him, are you okay? Are you nervous? And he said, I'm not nervous, but my son's a little nervous. So tell me about kind of coming into this tournament, the very close game versus HLE, and having to keep your own cool, also specifically in this game.
Yeah, the HLE game was a very crazy game. I think we could have won that game. It was very close, and I think we were in a very hard state. But I think we were very creative. I think Caps was like very smart in the side lane, also BB. I think they made really good plays, and yeah, we did some mistakes. You know, some TPs that just failed, and I think we could have won that, so it's a bit sad, but I'm still happy with how we played, you know. I think we performed well, and we could have won that in a different day.
Okay, so now you're moving on to the best ofs to qualify, hopefully for Europe. So how does the road ahead look? I know that last year was a huge, of course, heartbreak for you when you did get to this point as well. So yeah, talk to the G2 faithful about the work that has been done and the work that lies ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we're 2-1 now, and last time in Worlds, everyone remembers what happened when we were 2-1, so I think we just want to, I don't think we're going to have a lot of like expectations. I think we're just going to play what we do. We're going to play our game, and whoever we play against, I think we're going to do our best to beat them, and I think we're going to win, and then we're going to qualify to Paris.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Yike.
Thank you.
Congratulations, and it's G2 with a victory to close out the day.
Thank you so much, Shox. Welcome to Cooldown and welcome, Caps. Congrats.
Thank you, thank you.
The Shox was just talking about it with Yike. 2-1 now. Is it panic intensifies or is it the comfort zone you guys were looking for?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely just ready for the FlyQuest draw.
Oh my god. Oh my please no.
How similar does this year feel to last year, or is it a completely different experience?
I mean, definitely I feel it feels a bit different. I think last year we were going in 2-0.
Yeah.
And it felt like very messy games. I mean, I guess that's kind of similar to this year, but I think it's just happening a bit all over the place, especially with the swaps and stuff. But I do think that we have a bit more strategies prepared this time. And compared to last year, we are a lot more confident in like the very like later parts of the game. I think even if we fall a bit behind or if we don't get the super snowball, we can still close out the games.
And tell me about the mentality, because I feel like when G2 is on an international stage, you guys are cooking. The Galio is one thing, the Yasuo Yone is another, right? Same thing happened in MSI. Like, what happens like for you guys? What's the mentality going into an international event that makes it so different?
I mean, we definitely have like a bit of a longer time on the patch, and we have like a longer boot camp compared to I think most patches. So we get to really experience and figure out like, okay, what is our opponent's gonna pick, and what kind of things can we prepare for those.
That's fun.
When you think about this game compared to the HLE game, what have you guys been working on? Because I ran into Romain, I ran into all of you backstage after the HLE game. Everyone felt happy in the sense that you liked what you've been able to showcase against them. But I do feel like you would have been able to close it out, but you were maybe, I don't know, unsure about either of you guys as teammates or maybe the approach of the meta. What did you guys readjust for this one?
I mean, I definitely think a lot of the HLE also came from like we were falling behind quite far behind early game, and then we managed to like claw our ways back. And I think then we weren't really sure what we were doing. We definitely had a few pivotal moments, like with the Baron, we kind of just wasted it. We didn't really get anything done, and I think we had a few like TPs that got cancelled. And it's like maybe if I get the TP off or BB gets TP off or we cancel that TP, we can just like close out the game, right? So we were just not clutch enough in like the moments, but we will do it next time.
I love the approach that you have this year and what you guys have been working on, especially Shox was mentioning it on stage, I don't want to say trauma, but disappointment of last year with Worlds coming back in Europe, especially when you think of what happened in Korea. How do you manage expectations, but also maybe stress around not having the same history repeating itself?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I think, hard with this Swiss stage. I think even more so than like the previous group system, because it's like you don't know who you're getting, so you can't really like rely on preparation as much as you could maybe in the past group stage. And then it's just like, it's the best of ones, of course. Now we're luckily moving into best of threes, but it definitely feels like even this game was very, very scary for sure.
We have the bracket.
Take a look.
So you can see all the teams in 2-1, which is you guys. You're going to want FlyQuest, but how does that grouping feel? Because I think this win for you guys, I think, is really impressive since it is the win against the LPL or the LCK team. You're also experienced of having a 3-0 best of 5 against an Eastern team at MSI. Like, how high is your confidence that you can just, no matter who you get in the next one, draw them and beat them?
I mean, we're definitely feeling confident going into the match. I mean, we were also feeling confident going up against Hanwha Life, and sadly we didn't like managed to make that work.
And that's the tweak. You can't play them again this time. So there's actually only 4 different teams that you'd be able to play against.
Which one would you want to play the most?
I mean, T1 would be fun, right? We already played them. We played them so many times this year already, and I mean, they were boot camping actually at our like office as well for a few days. So it would be fun to play against them for sure. I think at the end of the day, obviously, I think FlyQuest would probably be on the weaker side, or Damwon, I think would be.
Can you not do what you guys did last year, saying that LCS is going to be the easiest? Because I don't know if that's true.
I mean, I am.
I think both FlyQuest would want G2 and G2 would want FlyQuest.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Exactly. And also, like, you've talked about it just a little bit, but what are your personal goals and expectations? Because I guess we're talking about Worlds a little bit, but also you guys in MSI had a top 4 finish. You guys actually smashed expectations a little bit, right? And it feels like if there was a little bit more that you guys could have done, you could have beaten T1 and good and farther. So what are your personal goals, like team goals and yourself? Yeah,
I mean, I think definitely we want to win Worlds, right? I think that's why we're here, and that's also why the draw is like, sure, some teams might be easier or harder or whatnot, but if we want to actually win Worlds, we will need to be able to beat anyone.
Yeah.
And I think the first step is this best of 3s, which in a way they're less pressure than like the later best of 5s, because even if we lose the next one, we still have one more chance. Yeah. And also, yeah, so I wouldn't mind like the strongest opponent we could get, right? Because it's good experience, it's good practice. I think we learned so much from playing against Hanover Live. And even this game, I think if like we can play this way cleaner than we did, so. Yeah,
I like that attitude, because even LNG Scout interview was like, I actually kind of wish we would have not gone 3-0 because we wanted more practice. And it's fine if you don't want to answer this, but I'm actually curious from your perspective, like, what the biggest strength of G2 is against the Eastern teams? Because I think in the past years, there was always this thought of like, oh, it might be close early game, but then once like the game actually starts, the LPL or LCK is going to dominate. But I feel like you guys are almost reversed. Like, I feel like once it gets to the mid game, you're extending your gold leads against everybody you play against because your macro is so good. But I'm just curious what your assessment is, because that's my read.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely always hard to compare like against other regions because there's like different teams and stuff like that. I think definitely we have a lot of innovation in draft. I think like even these games,
Galio,
the Galio or the Yasuo and all these kind of picks coming up can definitely be clutch for us. I definitely think something we were practicing a lot was like the later parts of the game, just because, you know, when we found success in the past years with like past G2, past Fnatic, it was a lot of the later parts of the game. We were struggling quite hard in the early game, and it was kind of funny that last year was like the opposite, where we were doing very well early, but then every mid-late game we just started throwing. So now I hope we can reach a point where we're not like 10k down in the early game, but we're also like contesting them and doing well in the later parts.
Never want to make it easy for yourself. Go ahead, Russ.
And also just like, I feel like this world has been a little bit different than the others, because you can see a stark difference in people's meta reads this late in the tournament, it feels like. Some of the conversation has been like the Korean LPL teams coming in late, and because they had their own scrim bubble. Have you felt that? Have you felt like there's still an adjusting on people's reads on the meta and patch right now?
I mean, definitely. I think there was a huge patch, right, to change things up, and especially from us going from like the 14-15 with like basically only AD carries, right?
Yeah.
And I think everyone has like a bit of their own picks going on. I think we're seeing a lot more AD carries, like with the Smolder, the Tristana. Actually, I only played against AD carries so far. So we're seeing a lot more AD carries like from the LPL SK teams than we maybe did in the EU-NA bubbles.
Yeah.
So definitely have to figure out like the balance of like when they can still be strong and when there might be alternative options.
Yeah, it's crazy because the expectation coming into this world was that Yone is going to stay, but all the AD mids are going to disappear because things are going to be switching in the jungle. For you, everything is still viable in a way, but you have more picks, I guess.
I mean, it's hard to say what is like more or less viable, right? I think it's probably just still not like figured out that well. There's definitely still a lot of ways to optimize, and I think at least for us, we can say we haven't like gotten to experience all the different picks in the different situations. And I think once we go later in the tournament, I'm sure there's going to be like some quite clear priorities.
What is more annoying for you, Smolder being that dominant or Yone being that dominant? I know they're intertwined here.
I mean, honestly, I don't mind either. I think it's always fun when there's like these like strong mid picks. And sadly, I didn't get to play Smolder yet. Maybe it's something
we can play. It's more fun to play, though. You know, we have the Chovy quote saying just like, I don't enjoy playing Smolder, but I do
I'll do it if I have to.
I mean, I think Young, you can definitely do some cool things.
Yeah.
So that's like very fun. Like whenever you pull that off, that's for sure like the peak fun, right? Whenever you do like something crazy. But at the same time, Smolder, if you go late game and you're just like the raid boss, you know, you just one-shot everyone, that is also very, very fun. And you know, everyone enemy team is like, oh, we have to kill the Smolder, and that can be quite enjoyable. So I think those two champs are actually both like very, very enjoyable. But probably I would give it to Yon.
All right. We respect that. I don't want to take too much of your time, Caps. You had a really long week. Quick take on tomorrow's games: MDK versus GAM, Pain Gaming versus Team Liquid. Who makes it out?
I mean, I will have to go with Matt, right? I think otherwise it would be a bit sad. I think they definitely still have some things to show. I think I don't know if I watched like every part of their game, but I feel like they didn't really go with so many crazy things compared to in Europe. So
they played super scaling against PSG and just
so it didn't really feel like mad necessarily. And I think if they want to have success, they probably need to use some of the things that actually brought them here, right? So I'm hoping they'll pull it out. We'll see.
And TL?
I mean, I think TL will probably win as well.
Probably.
There you go. We take it.
I'll take anything at this point.
I think they were looking very strong against us in scrims.
Yeah.
That's a curse almost.
Oh, I don't like hearing that.
That's tough.
They were kind of like the kings of the swap for sure.
Yeah.
But it seems like, I don't know, the swaps haven't been too successful, I would say, so far the tournament. So.
We'll take that for
I'll
now.
take that.
That's the rest is the story for tomorrow, of course. Caps, thank you so much. Congrats again on defeating Weibo. Jat, Raz, it's been a pleasure as usual.
Hell yeah.
And for you guys as well. I hope you're enjoying the show. I hope you're enjoying the games. We'll be back for more tomorrow. Losing side, best of threes again. We'll be back 2 p.m. CST. See you soon.
Maybe they're going to be able to turn this play around. Immediate ultimate coming in the Impale. A bit of work there for the follow-up, but not. Jackie Love over the wall. Huge damage and a massive punish on the Fnatic, who thought they had the angle on the bot lane play. Noah already over the wall. Perhaps could just go for the curtain call, but Mako now go for the re-engage, and Jackie Love is there, right in the nick of the time. The equalizer coming down. It doesn't do a lot, but they don't need it. TES tearing through this fight. T1 zoning him off. Baker goes in again anyway. Flash away from the charm. It's perfect to pop on the Q2 coming through. Vin feeling more confident in the 1v1. Zayas has flash, likely to be forced here. Flash out from Zayas. How long in the lead strike should be able to finish the job? Goes golden. The Nor is there, and T1 will not be denied. T1, 1-2-1 on can knock them away, but he cannot knock them out of this game. T1 take down BLG. Lower hold that thought as Whippo caught up in a bit of CC here. No ignite for Woody as it's burning down on Whippo. Excuse me. He's gonna die. First blood.
My bad.
I flashed out. I have nothing. Nice. Should be nice.
Woody doesn't hit, and that should do it. Masu free to do all the damage he wants, going godlike in this matchup. Masu going golden, baby. Yet another quadra to come in.
Light off, kill him. Light off, get light off. Nice. Light off. Push.